I walked into the kitchen and Ophelia was standing at the snack drawer, mouthful of sweets. I looked at her and said, "What are you eating?" She finished chewing, looked up at me and said, "Just 2 jelly babies." I told her to go get in the bath. While she's in the bath, I went to throw something away in the dustbin. And when I opened it, I saw there were chocolate wrappers, multiple chocolate wrappers in the bin. So I went to the bathroom, opened the door, and said, "Ophelia, what about the chocolates?" She turned to me and looked at me with a look I have not seen on her face before. That look stopped me cold. Not because she was lying. She's 7. Children lie and they get caught. That's not the point. It was the look that stopped me in my tracks. Deer in the headlights, sure. But beneath that was this challenge, this unspoken, "Okay, you've caught me. I dare you to call me out on it." I know that look. I've sat across the table from that look for the last 3 years. The thing nobody tells you about co-parenting with somebody who has a different relationship to the truth than you do is that it doesn't stay contained to them. It wasn't the fact that Ophelia lied that got me. She knew she had been caught. She knew I knew she had been caught. But that ability to just hold, that conviction in the lie, that ability to just double down. I've got a name for that look now. I call it the soon-to-be X face. Every dad in a high-conflict separation knows that face. You've seen it across the hall in the courtroom. You've seen it sitting across the table from you at the lawyer's offices. You've seen it for the past 3 years of your life. And the day you see that face on your kid is a different kind of pain. Because for a moment, I wasn't seeing my daughter's face. I was seeing every lie I'd been told for the past 3 years. There was a moment early on in our separation where I was having a bit of a problem figuring out what it is that we were going to tell Ophelia about the way things were, why things were changing. So I did what I thought a reasonable person would do, and I spoke to her mom. I said, "What are we going to tell Ophelia? I'm not comfortable lying to her." And the response that I got back was, "Fucking lie." After reading that on my phone, I had to sit with it for a minute, because in that moment, I had a name for something that I'd been struggling to understand for a while. I called it the fork. Now, the fork isn't the beginning of the separation. The fork is when you finally understand with absolute clarity that you are not raising the same child, that the values that you thought you shared were fundamentally different. And once you see that, there is no unseeing it, and there is no going back. They warn you about a lot of things going through a high conflict divorce. They warn you about the legal battle. They warn you about massive financial knock you're going to incur going through the process. They warn you about the struggles with custody, and they warn you about the effects that that is going to have on your kids. There is one thing that nobody warns you about. And the thing that nobody warns you about is the fear that what you have built with your kids is built on a foundation that only one of you values. That is the inheritance gap. The quiet terror that she is learning 2 completely different versions of how the world works. One in your house and one in the other house. And you don't get to decide which one sticks. You can't control what she sees somewhere else, and you can't undo it. All you can do is stand in the kitchen at the dustbin with chocolate wrappers lying in it, a mouthful of sweets, and the soon-to-be X face in full force, and wonder, what if the values I hold aren't the ones that she inherits? And that question doesn't have a clean answer, but it does have a direction. You cannot control the other house. You cannot legislate values, and you cannot force honesty into someone that doesn't want it. The only thing that you have is your example. Owning your mistakes out loud when you know she can see and hear it. Speaking the truth when a lie would be easier. That's the work. Not because it'll change the outcome, but because that's all you have. And it's enough. Because she's watching. They are always watching. If the inheritance gap is sitting in your chest right now, and you are sitting with that question to drop open in the comments. That's it. Just open. You'll know what it means, and so will I.